Craft. Craft never changes. Hello everyone, welcome to the Metal Crafter. As mentioned in previous videos, around 2 months ago I bought my first resin 3D printer, and since then I've been printing a lot of minis. Among them, I printed out a robots faction for the Fallout Wasteland Warfare game, which I'll show you in a future video. But of course there were some bumps in my 3D printing road and I encountered different type of issues. In this entry for the Fallout series, I'll show you how I turn out some robot misprints into cool and easy to make Wasteland Junk or objective markers. Let's hit the table. I'm going to use these rounded MDF cuts as bases for the pieces, but I wanted them to blend with the table. So since they were kind of too tall, I sliced them through with the X-Acto knife and used the flat faces for the bottom. Make sure to be careful and not cut your fingers if you try it this way. I then used the same knife, some sandpaper and a file to flatten the edges. Then gave the top a decoupage base to seal the MDF and prevent it from absorbing liquid and bending. Alright, here are some of the misprints I'm going to use in the scenery pieces. In most cases, the prints got loosened from the supports and ended up on the bottom of the bat. In other cases, some parts of the minis did, mainly limbs, so the mini is almost complete. I usually tend to use Paris plaster in my scenery and dioramas, but it does absorb a lot of water and it ends up being fragile. So in this case, I wanted to try some spackle. I just added some and spread it with a palette knife and a brush. Then first add the robot's pieces and then some cat litter. After that, I spread some regular sand and gave it an entire diluted PVA layer over the ground parts. For this one in particular, I added a printed 10mm ammo box as extra detail. For another of the protectrons, also added a casted fuel canister and part of a barrel. Starting with the paint, I first gave the 3D prints a layer with a Vallejo primer. Then painted the dirt with my favorite cappuccino brown and the bigger rocks with a neutral gray. Once dried, I went over the dirt, smaller rocks and sand with a gray dry brush. Then covered the entire ground except the 3D prints with a black wash. Moving on to the robots, I first painted Mr. Handy, some parts of the protectrons and the barrel with gunmetal silver. Then using regular silver for highlights and other parts of the protectrons. With a light tan color, I dry brushed the rockless parts of the dirt. Then also dry brush the rocks with grey to highlight the edges. For the Protectrons paint, I decided to go with yellow for a construction robot, aquamarine blue for a regular one, and a dark blue for a police robot. Also painted the ammo box with a military green and the fuel canister with a bright light brown to look heavily rusty. I've seen many painting the Protectron's head crystal with black, but thought white makes them stand out better. I'm then preparing a light brown wash to add rust effect on all metal parts, more heavily on the rods. I add several passes so the brown stays mainly in recesses. Finally covered the entire pieces with a light matte varnish, and our terrain pieces or objective markers are ready. Let's see them out there in the wasteland. This was a quick project to make and one to reuse your 3D misprints. In some cases where only a part of the mini failed to print, I even chopped that part off with the mesh mixer software, printed it again, and then added with superglue. This is a useful approach in case you want to save resin. If you are printing fantasy minis and they fail, those could make great corpses, for example, or use any limbs as heroes that encountered an ill fate. So keep it in mind before just throwing everything to the trash. Hit the like button if you enjoyed the video and share your own crafts. Remember to subscribe and turn on notifications not to miss future presentations. Follow the Instagram and Facebook pages for additional pictures of these and other builds. See you in the next craft.